Hello, my name's Kevin McDonnell and I'm a solution architect at CPS. Today I'm going to talk to you about how you can target news within Modern SharePoint, targeting at specific audiences and setting up approval so that you can make sure that all the news has been approved by the right people at the right time. Let's get started. So the first place to get started is on creating a new site. Obviously you could start with a simple communication site, but this is a good opportunity to demonstrate the SharePoint Online Provisioning Service, which you can access at provisioning.sharepointpmp.com. From here there's various templates you can use to get started. For today we're going to go into the Solutions one and have a look at the SharePoint Starter Kit. If you click on there, you can see a little bit of detail, a few screenshots and information on what's included there. And you can add it to your tenant. As it notices, you do need to be a tenant admin to be able to apply this. So my tenant is a dev tenant that I've created, and I'm just going to click on Add to Tenant. You can see that it's just authenticating me there, always the good bit while you're waiting for these. We're going to give it a name, and we're going to call this Squadtronics. Through there. Why Squadge? That's a long story for another time that I'm happy to share, and we're just going to give it a prefix of ST. You can decide if you want to apply an existing theme that you have there, but we're going to go with the theme that comes out of the box. Once you click on provision, it will go away. First it will validate what you've got created there. It will check on your tenancy, look to see if you have any sites created with the same prefix. Make sure everything's good, make sure you are a tenant admin, that you have all the prerequisites set up that you can see from Elon in there. You can see now it's telling me what will be provisioned, and it'll take approximately 25 minutes from when I click on confirm. Thankfully, this being a video, I will stop here and join in a minute when that has all completed. So after a little bit of time, you should get an email like this. Your request to provision this SharePoint starter template is now complete. And you can either click on the links down there to take you there, or if you jumped over to the SharePoint page, you can actually access from the top. You'll see that the Squadtronics, or whatever you've named your portal, has been created. So jumping onto that link, you can see the portal. I'm not going to go into too much details about what's available within there, but you can see it creates links to an employee directory, human resources, FAQs, gives you some company news and events, a nice overview of the organization, which, if I'm honest, seems a slightly odd thing to have on the internet homepage. You kind of hope people seeing that every day would know most of that, but a good example of embedding a PowerPoint within there. What we're going to do is jump into the marketing department. Click on there, and you can see it's created the top level portal as a hub site. For those of you who've seen that before, you've got the hub site links within there, and this is taken to the marketing team site. And within the marketing team site, we have some news, which is very exciting. Now, to set up the audience targeting, the first thing you need to do is to enable the audience targeting itself. So we're going to go into the pages library where all the news is held. And from there, click on the cog and bring up the library settings. Now, while this video is about Modern SharePoint, there are some things that take you back into the slightly more classic world for those who haven't seen this for a little while. But what you'll see is under the general settings, there is audience targeting settings, which you can click on there. So if we click on that, and a very small page, see, brilliantly, I've joined human resources now, which is nice to know. Let's click on enable audience targeting, and we now have audience targeting enabled. So before we start targeting an audience, let's create a news article just for marketing. And we're going to create all of these as posts. You can do the same things with links as well. And we're going to call this Welcome to the New Marketing Homepage. We'll add a little bit of text to it. Find out more about all we can offer. Now, at this point, you would have hoped that you can click on page details and see the properties and there should be a box down here. Now, the honest answer is I'm not seeing this at the moment. I've tried 4 different tenancies at the moment, mostly European based, and not seeing that. But we believe that it will appear here shortly where you can actually target an audience. So for now, I'm just going to save that as draft and return to the pages library. Again, we can select the article, the welcome to the new, and we can see the properties, and again you can see more properties there, but still no way of actually selecting the audience targeting. Again, I expect this to start appearing soon. Once you click on edit all, you will see there's nothing else there either. And so the way to do this, he says pausing, trying to remember, is in the all, you should be able to go to properties, edit item, and it should show up here, but it's not even showing there. Marvelous. Let's take a little pause there while I work that out. So as with all good demos, you tend to hit a little bit of an issue, and I've just discovered what this one was. So the problem is, and I'm going to create a new site here, is that the marketing site has been created as a team site by the template. So instead, let's create a communication type, and let's just call it marketing news. So a dedicated site for marketing for the news, and we'll click on finish to create that, and just wait that to tick over. Now, I do hope this is something that's changing, and as I say, the targeted news is something that's changing very rapidly, but certainly something that appears to be the case at the moment. So let's go into the marketing news, and we'll follow the same steps as before. Go into the cog, library settings, go into the audience targeting, and enable that. Okay. And this time we'll go back to the home page. Let's add a news article, and let's call this welcome to the marketing news site. Give it a bit of text. For all the latest news from the marketing department. I'm sure someone would add slightly more interesting text, but we'll stick with that for now. We will post the news and again return to pages. As I did last time, we'll click on there and try and show a bit more patience. Click on more and go into properties. And what you'll see is that the target audience's value is showing up in all properties. Now, if I edit the item there, I can then look up a target audience. If I click on the browse, you can see the options there. Again, you can have the global audiences, so you can set up central audiences. You can have distribution and security groups, and you can have SharePoint groups. So just for the time being, let's do a search for members, and let's try and search for marketing news. It doesn't like my SharePoint group. How distinctly rude. Let's try and search for marketing. Let's just try and search for anything. We go. Marketing news without space. So let's add the marketing members into there. One of the things I want to show these videos is that, yes, SharePoint can always be frustrating. Let's click on OK, save, and now we're targeting that to the marketing members. If we go to pages, we can actually add a column here. So if we click on add columns, show hide, then you have the ability, let's try that again, you have the ability to pick the target audience there, and we'll apply that, and you can see which audiences get applied to them. I have noticed that it doesn't always show up straight away. Sometimes you have to refresh, and maybe those changes I saved haven't actually come through, just to wind me up. The other thing I would say with that targeted audience, it doesn't necessarily show it in a particularly nice format. Let's try again with marketing news members. Okay, that seems to work a little better. Now it's not even saving that either. Let's see if it has actually retained it. Yes, so it has retained it there. As I mentioned, I have seen, oh sorry, I didn't update the column, that's why. So if I update, add the column, go back and remember to tick target audiences, there it is, and apply that. And this time we will actually save that view as a default by author. So there you can see, again, as I mentioned, not in the best format, it shows up the HTML, but at least you can see whether any targeting has been applied to the different areas. So next question is, how do we actually make use of that targeting? So I've returned to the home page here, and what I'm going to do is just edit this web part so that it only shows targeted news. Or at least I'd like to. If I click on edit web part, you can see you've got various different options. I can put a top story, list, carousel. You can even have the option so compact view and narrow width, so it works well on mobile devices. I can set up a filter, but this will filter for everyone viewing this. This is regardless of the audience of the person viewing it. You can also organize some news. So you can select a specific news article. If I click on select news there, you can see recent news. You can even search for a bit of news, and you can drag and say, yep, I always want this to appear on top. Just a little warning on that one. If you select a news article to appear on top and then delete that article, it doesn't actually consider that and will show a blank block there. So make sure if you do set an order, try not to delete that article because it won't work. Now, based on what I've read of audience targeting, I was expecting another box here called audience filtering. I'm just going to jump to another tab. And there's a great article called Use the News Web Part on a SharePoint Page. And I will include this in the accompanying blog post and on the notes on YouTube. And this really details how you can get different sources, where you can get the news from, organization news, which I'm going to come to in a minute. Some of the different layouts you can create on there. I'm going to scroll relatively quickly and you can have a look at this page in your own time. But off near the bottom is a complete section on audience targeting, which you can jump on there to target audiences. You can see there's a difference between SharePoint Online on there. The steps that I've talked through are all on here. So you can enable the audience. You can select a file and select a value for the audience property in the details pane. This is the bit that I'm not seeing applied to environments yet, and we'll update this video as soon as it is. You can see that we can actually enable, you see in the filter and sort section, turn on enable audience targeting. Again, this is the part that we're not seeing there. It does say it's gradually to organizations that have opted into targeted release. Not seeing that yet, sadly. But that is the part there. Once you see it, we should see a section down here where you can actually enable targeted news. Let's move on, I think, to organization news and what that looks like. So the organization news gives you a way to tag an article to say, I want this news to show as being relevant for the organization. As I noted in the article, there is some details. If I just go back to that one, you can see there's some details within this about setting up organization news. A little higher up. Unfortunately, at the moment, you have to do this with some PowerShell commands. So let's fire up PowerShell. Run as admin. Let that beep away behind the scenes. First step, you need to connect up and go machine. Right. Let's connect up to the kmcps dev.sharepoint.com. Now, almost made the mistake there. It's actually the admin site that you want to connect up to. I'll click go on that. That one can be a little prompt to log in. And I will just log in, hopefully relatively quickly, assuming I can type. Log into that environment. It's always good when you're recording video to make sure that you don't read out your password at the same time. And let's call just the Get SBO Org News site. So what you'll see here is any sites that you've specified that organisational news should come from. And you see I've already set up one site there. So let's add the current site. And again, it's just a set SBO org news site, org site URL. Let's copy and paste that to make sure I get it. So you can see we've just taken the full URL, just copying that, and we'll paste it. Try and paste it into there. No, let's try that again. Copy and paste. There we go. And you can see that it sets that and adds it to the list. And if I go up and run the Get SBO Org News site, you can see that it's listed there. Now it does take a little bit of time, I found, from this, so I'll just go to the other site for a minute there. Let's hope that some of my copy and pasting works better on this one. There we go. And what you'll see is that when you enable news articles with this, you get this large tag within there. So it talks about where the article comes from. In this case, this has come from the SEC Services News. And you'll see it in large bold print there. So what we're saying is this is approved for the organisation coming from this site. We consider all of this approved news. And if you go up to the main SharePoint landing page and look at the news there, let's have a look at all news. I've added a few more since then. You'll see that those also come out nicely branded, standing out, making them more formal and part of that. So as you apply the audience targeting, you want to make sure that these org sites don't really have audience targeting, although I am here. You want to make sure they stand out and they're available to everyone and look lovely. Now that we have some news there, and you can see I've updated the page and the marketing news is coming through nicely there, what we want to do is add some approvals. So if we go into the pages library, you'll see that along the top here, once it loads, is the option to use flow. So you can use flow to create a workflow, to create really anything you can do in flow. So you could trigger an email going out to people. You could trigger every time news here, have that post to Salesforce, have that post into your other CRM systems, all sorts of things. But out of the box, without having to really go into too much thinking around the additional flows, is you can configure a standard page approval flow. So we're just going to go through the simple option today. Let's configure that. So you can see add a page approval to require approval before publishing new and updated pages in this library. Let's create that flow. Just let it tick by there. By the way, I do apologise to activate Windows on there. I don't have some dodgy copy. I just haven't been into the office since I got my new laptop. I assure you it's all above board. Anyway, for the approvers, because it's marketing news, we're going to select Yanis Hernandez, who's the head of marketing. So we want to make sure he approves any news articles coming through. You can see some details of what it's going to connect to in the notifications, should you want to, but most people will just click on create. And we now have some flow created. So let's return to the home page and add a news article. Create a new post. Please, some new news that needs approving. And we can add some text. I know this is a boring article, but it needs to get out there. Not sure that will get approved, but let's see. You can see now that instead of the save, I've now got submit for approval. So I can click on submit, and this will go to Yanis. And you can see that it's saying what it will connect to. Again, I can see further details, but let's continue. And I can add a note in there. The details there, it's saying that I'll only show the first time you set up an approval. Hi Yanis, are you okay to approve this new article? Okay, lovely. Let's go back to home, and I will see that only welcome to the marketing news site is showing up. And if I go to pages though, I can see that there's some news that needs approving, and the approval status is pending. Now I'm just going to jump over to an incognito window, and as you can see here I'm ready for sign in, so I'm just going to copy and paste the details for Yanis. I should highlight this is a dev tenant and none of these people are real. Actually on that note, just while that's signing in, and worth mentioning, I will put this in the notes of the show, but there's a great site called Name Generator. You can see here that if I click on it, it will generate a load of random names. You can choose how many you want, which genders. Write me some more. Let's reflect those. There are some other ones. You can see here you can have a band name or a rapper name. Obviously not quite so appropriate, but very helpful for generating a set of real and quite nicely diverse names as well. So worth taking a look at that. Hopefully that's now logged Yanis in. Oh, it will stay logged in this window for now. Now, one thing I almost forgot there and forgot last time is obviously if you're adding someone to the news site and you're making them able to approve things, you do need to make sure they are actually an owner for the site or can do things on there. So you can see at the moment just my account is set up. I'm going to jump to Yanis and grant full control to the site. So we will add Yanis to that marketing site. And now if I jump to the SharePoint, hopefully it will show up in the list of sites. If not, let's try searching for it. Oh, you see it hasn't quite caught up with the search, so I'm just going to do the simplest thing of just copy pasting the article across. So you can see I've got welcome to the marketing news. This is all lovely, and if I look at pages, I can go and see there some news that needs approving. I can see that's pending. I could obviously create a view and filter on all the pending ones, so I had a single place to go, and I've got now review approvals. So let's click and review on that, waiting for that to load. So you can see there's some news that needs approving, requires approval. So if I click on that, hi Yanis, you okay to approve this? Could even reassign. So I might say, I'm not sure about this, I want someone else to have a look, either someone else in marketing or someone else with access on there, or I can just click on approve. Just before I do that, I'm just going to jump into Outlook on here. And just note, obviously you can see I've sent the email, so I've got the joined marketing, but also I have got an email with approval for Yanis as well. So Yanis could go straight in and approve from there, but just showing you can also do it from the page itself. Whoops. Let's go back and bring up the review approvals. So it will take you to exactly the same page. Kind of look at that, saying yes, it all looks good. Well, not exactly true, and that is now approved. And if I, as the owner, now go and I can see 2 news articles. Now if I return back to my account and let's refresh the page, I also can see 2 new articles. So there I have a very simple approval process. If I did want to extend that, maybe you want to have 2 levels of approval, the flow that gets created is available. Let me just sign in to that account. So it does just create a workflow there for you. It uses the standard flow approvals, and you can see the one I created 5 minutes ago. I can go in and edit that, and I could add multi layers of the approval. So I can look at this. I could start an approval. You can see here I've got a condition. If the response is approved, great. But I could add another approval in here. I could customize the email that gets sent on there. I could even look at there. You can see the title, you can see the details, you can see all the different bits on there. I could go in and customize all sorts of things as I would with any flow. So there's nothing stopping you using this as a basic one and then extending and adding more on top of that. So we've now created our marketing news, we've added the org news parts to it, and it's all looking relatively good, with the exception obviously of not currently being able to do the audience targeting. One other thing though with the audience targeting is that as well as using groups, you can actually create your own audiences. So if I jump into the SharePoint Admin Center up here, nice bright shiny new Admin Center, then unfortunately you need to go into the classic features and into the classic user profiles. So they haven't migrated some of this functionality. Under here you'll see manage audiences, and you can create your audiences based on a set of rules. However, and I'm sure I'm going to get deluged with comments on this, I'm not actually seeing some of these getting compiled. So I would put a massive caveat that I think there are either issues with this or it's deprecated functionality. Just to show how it does work though, you can edit, for example, here I've created a marketing news consumer, I've created an owner, again Yanis, the head of marketing, and I've said if it satisfies any of the rules. Clicking on OK, you can see you can add various rules, and in this case I've added a rule that said whether department equals marketing. So anyone in the marketing will get put into that marketing news consumers. And once you've created that, and in theory once it's compiled, then you should be able to click on view membership and view anyone with that. Now I will be looking further to this and we'll add some notes to the blog post on anything I discover, because I've left this over 24 hours and it still hasn't compiled. It is worth noting that on the targeted article, on the targeted audience article I mentioned earlier, let me just go into that. It does also talk about the possibilities that if you have the Azure AD, I believe you need the P2 license for this, you can create complex attribute-based rules to enable dynamic memberships for groups. So that will allow you to create an Office 365 group, permission people against that, and get much of the same functionality, but at a price that is worth noting there. You can still use the distribution groups that you've created, but if you want to make those automatically created, it's looking like it will need this Azure AD P2 license. So the only other things I want to show, just a couple of links to demonstrate how this will look like shortly. So I will include this in the blog, but the April 29 updates, Chris McNulty, not Mark Cashman this time, did talk about audience targeting. And you can see here, this is what you are looking for. It may already be enabled in your tenant. I'd love to hear if it is, but you should see the enable audience targeting set there. And in the page details, as we saw in the all page properties, you should also be able to see within the page details itself, so you don't have to go into the more classic view. As it says there, roll out to targeted release tenants, which I do have my tenants set up to, but it's slated to begin in late April. So many of you may be seeing this. We're not yet seeing that appear. One of the reasons may be is I did note in the message center that the audience targeting in organizational news will begin rolling this feature out soon. So this was published on 9th of April, and it has a roadmap ID on there, which I clicked on, and it appears to be showing as still in development. So it is likely that this will come out soon, but isn't quite there yet. If you have seen it, we'd love to hear from you, and we'll update this video once that is rolled out. Otherwise, thank you very much for your time. Enjoy targeting your audiences and getting some approvals so you can simplify some of the tasks there. Thank you very much.